Hello, welcome back to the tour, and it's day 3, and they're riding along the coast of the Bay of Biscay on their way to Monterey. No, not Monterey, Bayonne. A little bit more attractive than the Bayonne that I know in Jersey outside of New York City. And many people watch the tour not for the racing, but sort of a travel log of France. Now, we're not quite in France yet. We're in the course along the northern section of Spain, that is the Basque countryside. And then we will cut over into France quite shortly, I believe, and still be in the Basque region, but in the French Basque region. Phil Liggett, who commentates on NBC, was just saying that all the signage in Spain is in Basque and Spanish, and then when you get over into France, it switches to French, of course, but is also still in Basque. So Peloton is really rather stretched out. For as chill as the stage has been thus far, it's a little wild to see them. I didn't realize they had actually now apparently really picked up speed. Or maybe they just want to be far enough apart that they can actually take some time to look out and see the beautiful surroundings around them. This really has been a very beautiful roadway along the coast, and they've been down along the coast for quite a few kilometers now. About 50 kilometers. I was looking over to check my notes. I, of course, I'm not happy with that. We're going to call that the There we go, that looks a little better. So, as with watercolors, you can't correct mistakes. So it is with the Sharpie that I use. So with watercolors, you have to learn to accept your mistakes. But I've always been that way. My work, I have pencils that I've used down to the nub, and the eraser is still untouched. And it's the same with the paint sticks. Of course, you do have the, which is the other way I work, and there are plenty of videos about about my paint stick work as well. But they at least afford you the opportunity to paint back over mistakes. So I'm still just getting in the last little bits of the details of this. So this is the next bend. It's just this beautiful road sweeping around and around and around these um, bends and outcroppings in the bay. So now we're just going to start laying in some of the color here. Now the image I'm painting from, and the way I do these is I'm watching the race, and when I see something that's interesting, I pause it. For those of you who've been paying much attention, I rarely do a landscape. Because a lot of what I'm painting is about the racing. And obviously this image is more about the beauty of the racing, which is a part of it, to be sure. But well, like I say, many people watch the tour just to see these beautiful scenes. I do remember the tour started in Corsica. I now don't remember how many years back, but it was so beautiful. It really gave me the desire to go to Corsica, which is, of course, one of the reasons that many of these areas are desperate to get the tour to come to them, because it's even true here in Richmond, Virginia, after the World Championships, that many folks from around the world now know of Richmond. I've actually heard Richmond mentioned in this year's broadcast because Peter Sagan, in his retirement year, won his first World Championships here in Richmond. So I'm kind of flipped the script a little bit, but then again, this whole painting is going to be pretty much an analogous color scheme. So I've been, other than that little bit of warm color I put into the Peloton, I'm painting with cool colors first. And one thing about this coast, although it does look up here in this town up in the distance, it is a very rocky coast. It's not like you're going to go down here and sunbathe on a sandy beach, which of course is what we're used to here in the East Coast. East Coast of the United States. There's obviously an East Coast everywhere. Well, not in France, it's all West and North Coast. Sorry, my image disappeared. There we go. And it's also stunning the way this road is built out. So all along the coast, they even have these. I just realized I didn't sign this. And we'll call it A Beautiful Day Out. So just working back across the rocks, and I'm sort of holding off on the trees and such. which I'm going to switch to now. So I'm going to lay in first the highlights, and then I'll work my way sort of in, as always, working from light to dark. And now we'll just darken this a little bit each time. Trying to show the texture of the trees clinging to these precipices. And as I work on this, I'll probably bounce back and forth a little bit, trying to develop. So as I say that, I'm coming back with a brighter green. And of course, also a thing to remember as things go back into the distance, they become less distinct, both less sharp of image and then less brilliant of color. And that's an atmospheric thing. So that's so you of course have the perspective of larger, smaller, diminishing perspective lines, and that kind of thing is a tool. But also atmospheric pressure or perspective, which is just that things are less distinct and they tend to get not only less distinct, but I'm sorry, I'm trying to find the word. Duller, so less saturate in color, usually bluer in tone because of the water vapor in the air makes it sort of infuses the color you're seeing. So this is this wooded outcropping. And if you can see, I'm sort of bouncing my brush almost just to get that texture in. And as I do that, see now when I come back over here and add a little more color, I get darker and more varied trees. And another way, of course, you can do this is lay a wash down first so you don't have the white paper popping through. But I kind of like the white paper. What do you think? Now I want to add some bright again. And the other way to get more intense saturation, of course, is less water, more pigment. So I do want to come down here and sort of define this coastline a little better. And part of that's coming back in with the water. And now one of the things when painting with watercolors is anything you want white has got to be paper left behind. So that does make it a little bit more of a challenge. And while I don't do it one way, you can help make that happen is to, you can take rubber cement, and I'm sure they make a version of that, but you can lay that in where you want the white and then paint, ignoring the fact that you're going to have to deal with white. And when you come back, you can then peel off that rubber cement, and it will leave the bright white, because if the color will adhere to the rubber cement, and then when you pull that back up, poof, you got white. But I'm being a little more in the moment with these, so that's just not really an option. So other than this little bit of rock slide barrier here, this is just about done. So that gives me time to remind you that I, of course, will be posting one of these every day throughout the tour and the Tour de Femmes, the women's Tour de France, which starts on the last day of the men's race, so then it will be a 2-race day, so therefore a 2-painting day. And then all of this artwork, you can read about it on my blog, the artofcycling.blogspot.com, and then all the work is for sale over at my website, gregleach.com. And at the blog, there's a link to each painting, so it might be easier to track them down that way. But you're looking for the Tour de France 2023 gallery to find the pieces. So that's it. Obviously, if you want to see these as they appear, subscribe, give it a like. Love to know what you think. Very nice to the person who corrected me on the painting from stage 1, that Kavanaugh, who's looking to break a record, actually was racing when I first started painting the Tour de France back in 2012. So I appreciate your comments. Leave a thumbs up, leave a comment, subscribe if you want to see these as they go live. Thank you all.